Jésus n'est-il venu que pour les seules brebis perdues du peuple d'Israël?
Did Jesus only come for the lost sheep of the people of Israel? When one reads the beginning of the Gospels, one gets the impression that this is the case. There is even a famous scene where a woman who is not from the people of Israel tries to be healed by Jesus, and Jesus replies to her, I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel. It is not befitting that small dogs should eat the children's food. And the woman replied, Yes, but small dogs can eat the crumbs that fall on the ground. It is in Matthew chapter 15, verse 27. In front of her humility, Jesus is struck with admiration and he heals her. But still, there's that text. We must not stop at this passage only. You have to look at the whole of the gospel. Indeed, towards the end of the apostolic life of Jesus, when the Jewish leaders begin to seriously threaten his life, there are at one point Greeks who are in Jerusalem and who do not dare to speak to Jesus. So they go through a disciple, in this case through Philip, and Philip comes to see Jesus. And Jesus then begins to teach them the very substance, the very heart of the gospel. If the grain of wheat fallen into the ground doesn't die, he remains alone. But if he dies, he bears much fruit. Why is it the very heart? Because it is the explanation of our presence on earth. If it were enough to love God, we would go directly to paradise. You have to love Him and die to yourself. Without this, one cannot see God face to face. This text is in John chapter 12, verse 20. The apostles will understand this more and more. For example, on the occasion of an evangelary prophecy of the high priest Caiaphas, this is the story. The high priest has gathered that they were wondering, what are we going to do to this man? He excites the Romans against the people, and they argue. Caiaphas takes the floor and says, So you do not understand anything? Don't you understand that it's better for one man to die for the people rather than the whole people to perish? Well, St. John in his Gospel, chapter 11, from verse 51, says this. He did not say this on his own accord, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus should die for the nation, and not for the nation only, but to gather into one the children of God who are scattered abroad. Therefore, this gospel will be for the whole world. Besides, after his resurrection, when Jesus sends the apostles on mission, he tells them verbatim to go to the whole world. Matthew chapter 27, verse 19. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. And I am with you always to the end of the world. So think that perhaps some apostles understood the command to be that of preaching to the Jews who were in exile abroad. In any case, this is what some Muslims think. Well, if we want to be sure that it wasn't the case, we just need to look at the continuation, the great scene which occurs in the Acts of the Apostles. Let me tell it. It's very simple. There was a centurion called Cornelius. He had been touched by the grace of God. He really wanted to know Jesus. He wanted to see a disciple, and it was the angel of God himself who appeared to him in an overwhelming vision. He said, Around the ninth hour of the day, the angel of God, I saw him clearly enter into my home and called me, Cornelius. I have answered him, What is it, Lord? And the angel answered me, Your prayers and your alms have been heard by God, and he has remembered you. You will find him in Joppa, a man called Peter. This is Peter, the first pope. All at the same time, Pierre is about to eat, sitting down at the table, and suddenly he too has a vision. He sees a tablecloth falling from the sky. It falls on the table, It opens and it contains all kinds of critters, amphibians, all kinds of things. The clean animals symbolize the Jewish people, and the unclean animals all the other peoples. A voice that said to him, "Immolate and eat." And Peter answered, "Never, never, I've eaten unclean food." And the voice says to him, "What I declare clean, do not declare it unclean." Just as this dream ends, there is a knock on his door, and Cornelius arrives. He understands the link. Obviously, that will scandalize the Jews of the neighborhood, who says, "But you went to this centurion, you made yourself unclean. We cannot enter the house of pagans." Then Peter told them of his dream, the coincidence of everything, so that in the end of the Jews really rejoiced, overwhelmed, saying to themselves, "It is magnificent. This gospel is for all nations." This conclusion by the Jews is found in Mark chapter 11, verse 18.
Si bien que, à la fin, ces Juifs se réjouirent vraiment, bouleversés en se disant: c'est magnifique, cet évangile est pour toutes les nations.